Welcome to Part 2 of the Unemployment Insurance Answers to FAQ during the COVID-19 outbreak. Here are more scenarios about employees, independent contractors, and essential employees, and a bonus question about pandemic unemployment assistance and how to apply. Please see the description below for details related to your state. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more videos. Moving on to scenario number 2, not enough support. My regular unemployment compensation benefits do not provide enough support due to the economic challenges caused by the COVID-19 outbreak. Can I expect to receive additional relief? Answer: yes, depending on how your state chooses to implement the CARES Act. The new law creates the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, FPUC, which provides an additional $600 per week to individuals who are collecting regular UC, including unemployment compensation for federal employees, UCFE, and unemployment compensation for ex-service members, UCX-PEUC, PUA, extended benefits EB, short-time compensation STC, trade readjustment allowances TRA, disaster unemployment assistance DUA, and payments under the Self-Employment Assistance C program. This benefit is available for weeks of unemployment beginning after the date on which your state entered into an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor and ending with weeks of unemployment ending on or before July 31, 2020. Scenario number 3, additional relief. My regular unemployment compensation benefits do not provide adequate support given the unprecedented economic challenges caused by the COVID-19 outbreak. Can I expect to receive additional relief? Answer: yes, depending on how your state chooses to implement the CARES Act. The new law creates the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, FPUC, which provides an additional $600 per week to individuals who are collecting regular UC, including unemployment compensation for federal employees, UCFE, and unemployment compensation for ex-service members, UCX-PEUC, PUA, extended benefits EB, short-time compensation STC, trade readjustment allowances TRA, disaster unemployment assistance DUA, and payments under the Self-Employment Assistance C program. This benefit is available for weeks of unemployment beginning after the date on which your state entered into an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor and ending with weeks of unemployment ending on or before July 31, 2020. Scenario number 4, essential employees. My employer has remained open because it is essential. I'm not sick, nor is anyone in my household sick. I do not have children or care for someone who cannot care for themselves. However, I'm afraid of getting coronavirus from customers coming to the store, so I quit and filed for unemployment. Can I obtain benefits under the CARES Act? Answer: no. Under the CARES Act, you may be eligible for benefits if you meet one of the circumstances listed in the Act, but none include the scenario described. On these facts, you are not eligible for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance (PUA) because you do not meet any of the qualifying circumstances. There are, however, circumstances under the CARES Act in which specific, credible health concerns could require an individual to quit his or her job and thereby make the individual eligible for PUA. For example, an individual may be eligible for PUA if he or she was diagnosed with COVID-19 by a qualified medical professional, and although the individual no longer has COVID-19, the illness caused health complications that render the individual objectively unable to perform his or her essential job functions with or without a reasonable accommodation. However, voluntarily quitting your job out of a general concern about exposure to COVID-19 does not make you eligible for PUA. If you believe your employer's response to the possible spread of COVID-19 creates a serious safety hazard, or if you think your employer is not following OSHA standards, you can file a complaint with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. As a general matter, you are likely to be eligible for PUA due to concerns about exposure to the coronavirus only if you have been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine as a result of such concerns. For instance, an individual whose immune system is compromised by virtue of a serious health condition, and who is therefore advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine in order to avoid the greater than average health risks that the individual might face if he or she were to become infected by the coronavirus, will be eligible for PUA if all other eligibility requirements are met. Scenario number 5, work from home workers. My employer will let me work from home with pay. However, because my children are out of school and my spouse is working, I need to care for them and it is too difficult to work from home. Under Section the CARES Act, I self-certify that I need my kids to be at school in order for me to be able to work. Do I qualify for PUA? Answer: you may qualify. The CARES Act does provide PUA to an individual who is the primary caregiver of a child who is at home due to a forced school closure that directly results from the COVID-19 public health emergency. However, to qualify as a primary caregiver, your provision of care to the child must require such ongoing and constant attention that it is not possible for you to perform your customary work functions at home. For example, if your employer allows you to telework and you are caring for a more mature child who is able to care for him or herself for much of the day, you likely would not qualify for PUA because you are still able to work. In addition, you should bear in mind that the CARES Act provides PUA only when a child is home because of a school closure that is a direct result of the COVID-19 public health emergency. A school is not closed as a direct result of the COVID-19 public health emergency after the date the school year was originally scheduled to end. That means that, once the school year is over, parents should rely on their customary summer arrangements for caring for their children, and will not, absent some other qualifying circumstances, be eligible to receive PUA. If, however, the facility that they rely on to provide summer care for the child is also closed as a direct result of the COVID-19 public health emergency, they may continue to qualify for PUA. Similarly, if there is some other reason under which they qualify for PUA, they will continue to be eligible to receive benefits. Scenario number 6: Students and ride sharing. I'm partially employed because I'm a student and work part-time doing ride sharing. Can I certify that I cannot work and get PUA under the CARES Act? Answer: You may be eligible for PUA, depending on your personal circumstances. A gig economy worker, such as a driver for a ride-sharing service, is eligible for PUA provided that he or she is unemployed, partially employed, or unable or unavailable to work for one or more of the qualifying reasons provided for by the CARES Act. For example, a driver for a ride-sharing service may be forced to quit his or her job if he or she was diagnosed with COVID-19 by a qualified medical professional, and although the driver no longer has COVID-19, the illness caused health complications that render the driver objectively unable to perform his or her essential job functions, with or without a reasonable accommodation. Similarly, a driver who receives an IRS Form 1099 from the ride-sharing service may qualify for PUA benefits if he or she has been forced to suspend operations as a direct result of the COVID-19 public health emergency, such as if an emergency state or municipal order restricting movement makes continued operations unsustainable. Relatedly, widespread social distancing undertaken in response to guidance from federal, state, or local governments may so severely reduce customer demand for a driver's services as to force him or her to suspend operations, and thus make the driver eligible for PUA. Scenario number 7: Laid off and back at work. I was furloughed by my employer, but they have now reopened and asked me to return to my job. Can I remain on unemployment? Answer: No. As a general matter, individuals receiving regular unemployment compensation must act upon any referral to suitable employment and must accept any offer of suitable employment. Barring unusual circumstances, a request that a furloughed employee return to his or her job very likely constitutes an offer of suitable employment that the employee must accept. While eligibility for PUA does not turn on whether an individual is actively seeking work, it does require that the individual be unemployed, partially employed, or unable or unavailable to work due to certain circumstances that are a direct result of COVID-19 or the COVID-19 public health emergency. In the situation outlined here, an employee who had been furloughed because his or her employer has closed the place of employment would potentially be eligible for PUA while the employer remained closed, assuming the closure was a direct result of the COVID-19 public health emergency and other qualifying conditions are satisfied. However, as soon as the business reopens and the employee is recalled for work, as in the example above, eligibility for PUA would cease unless the individual could identify some other qualifying circumstance outlined in the CARES Act. Bonus question. If I am eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance, do I need to first apply for unemployment insurance? Answer. States must have a process for determining that pandemic unemployment assistance (PUA) applicants are ineligible for regular unemployment benefits, which may not include filing a regular claim as a first step. States are not required to take and adjudicate a full claim for regular unemployment insurance benefits to meet this requirement. While states are not prohibited from taking a full claim, to facilitate expedited claims processing, the U.S. Department of Labor has discouraged states from doing so. Individuals should apply using the state's PUA application process and, in states that have not yet established that process, must wait until it is established. Thank you for watching Part 2. To get answers to your frequently asked questions about unemployment insurance for unemployed people, watch Part 1. To hear more scenarios about employees, essential employees and independent contractors, watch Part 2 again. To hear more scenarios about what employers do when people quit their jobs or refuse employment, watch Part 3.